Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey David, how are you doing tonight?
I have a cold, and so if I'm going to be, I might cough a little bit, and I'll try to move away from the mic when I do that. So that's forewarning. Sorry about that, listeners to this podcast, but we're all in such a good mood that it shouldn't matter. I'm hoping because this is it's another happy night in oil country, Bruce. This is another game that the Oilers would have lost last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's been about 5 games, I think, 5, 6 games this year that we've seen where the Oilers
Mm-hmm.
just look like a different team than last year. This is a game where they would have wilted and lost last year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a game where they came on strong in the third period, especially in the middle section of the third period. They dominated. They scored a big goal,
Mm-hmm.
and they beat the defending Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues 4-2. And it's always so sweet to beat the St. Louis Blues. They're just they've been a big, tough team for what, 15
Long
years?
time. Well, since Hitchcock was coach, and that was a while ago, that they used to routinely come in here and just Hitchcock would come out in the morning and talk about how good and talented and young and skilled the Oilers were, and how his team would have to really be paying attention to details. And then he'd send his big team over the boards, and David Backus would smear the little Oilers into little streaks along the boards, and the Blues would just tear us apart limb from limb.
Ain't that the truth? Smear them. Robert Nilsson. Maybe that. I don't know. It's a long time ago. Alice
Yeah, it
Hemsky.
is. But they've been a big tough team for most of that time. I mean, tonight when they turned it up in the second period, it reminded me of that scene in the original Star Wars. You know, when they're in the garbage compactor and the walls are closing in on them, and it just feels they're going to be mashed together into nothing. And that was what St. Louis was doing. Man, did they ever turn up the heat, physical heat, and the Oilers couldn't for a while there. Couldn't win battles. When they did get the puck, they could never get over center, and it was coming right back at them, and they were coming in waves. And credit to them, they managed to hold that off. I mean, these are the Stanley Cup champions after all, and they were playing on a couple days rest. And I don't think St. Louis had that bad of a game tonight. They did have a couple mistakes, but they it wasn't like they sort of went, oh well, this we're in first place, we can mail this one in. That never happened. They really hung around in this game, and they forced Oilers to the wall, and
The
Oilers
Oilers
found a
are,
way to come up with a regulation win, David.
yeah, very nice. The Oilers are not, they're, they're not a heavy hockey team, but they're not a small hockey team.
They've got some
They've still got
physical.
good size. You got guys like Nurse, Cassian, Draisaitl, Adam
Yeah.
Larson. You got some big boys who can do some damage. So let's not give away too much in terms of our good things and bad things because I'm starting
Okay.
to do that.
All right.
This is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast because it's a happy Oilers victory. We're going to go with two good things each. Bruce, what's your first good thing?
Our first good thing is the play of the Oilers' second line with Leon Draisaitl between Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Kailer Yamamoto. The trio that scored all three of Edmonton's goals, besides the empty netter tonight, they all wound up +3, and I thought really all three of those guys had terrific games. I mean, Draisaitl was dominant in the middle of the ice, scored a couple of great goals, came close to more, and he got the puck in those positions by playing defense, winning it in his own end, and roaring up ice with it, and making stuff, dishing it off, and getting into position, and so and more power to him. 6 shots on net, 16 and 12 in the face-off circle, and just a fairly dominant performance all the way around. But both of his wingers, I mean, this is what makes the line click. Like there was one play that caught my eye in the second period where Leon came up through the neutral zone, and his first eye was for that cross ice pass that he loves, right?
Yeah.
And Nuge looked like he was sort of fleetingly open on the far wing, but Yamamoto was also open on the near wing in smart position, and Leon made the decision to not do the cross ice pass and instead make the little short easy dish to Yamamoto, who then made a skilled play to enter the zone and get the attack going. And all of a sudden, I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen Leon play center where he had two skilled wingers. I mean, usually he's lucky to have one, right? I mean, last year he played with Toby Reeder and Alex Chason. Those were his two main wingers when he played on his own line.
Okay, I think I have a
And,
migraine headache right now, Bruce. Now,
yeah.
just when you said that, it suddenly. I've never had one before, but I feel like one just came on.
Yamamoto, he played a fantastic game tonight. I loved his game, and defensively aware and on the puck. I saw there was one mistake where he waited for a puck to ring around the boards instead of going towards it, and the blue managed to pinch him off. But those are few and far between. He's fearless, and he goes for the puck. He goes for the good places. He made a beauty pass, backhand sauce pass to Draisaitl on the game winner. He nearly scored himself on a very tricky shot from almost behind the goal line where Allen was off the post and Yamamoto knew it, like very good awareness. And also he was the guy screening the netminder when Caleb Jones, otherwise harmless point shot, managed to find a hole, and it was because Jake Allen was distracted with the huge shadow of big Kailer Yamamoto in his face.
There was two other St. Louis Blues defensemen also screening that. That shot was two Blues and Little Yam.
But so, he was well placed to create havoc. He was. And sometimes, the guy in front of the net will draw one of those opposing defensemen in and add to the havoc that way. Anyway, I can't say enough about how well Yamamoto's been playing. And he's been a positive factor in 10 out of 10 games since he's been called up.
Yeah. A lot of Oiler fans, you will recall, Bruce, were so pleased when the Oilers took Yamamoto because it was a sign that they were finally, drafting skill.
Right.
As opposed to a Coke machine. And, we got, I guess Jujhar Khaira is kind of the last of the Coke machines from that era still on the roster.
Skill and also tenacity, though. Like, that's not really what you expect, but boy, does he bring that in spades. And then the last guy on the line, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, all he did was get a couple of assists, +3. They were all +3. He led the team. He had 2.5 more minutes in ice time than either McDavid or Draisaitl tonight, the Nuge did. Like, you almost never see that. And a big part of the reason was he played nearly 4 minutes on the penalty kill. Oilers killed 3 penalties tonight, 6 minutes. And Nuge was on the ice for 3:48 of that. So almost 60% of the penalty kill time was Nugent-Hopkins at work. And he was key on that unit. And he also had 5 shots, 9 shot attempts. Like, he was involved in the game in all 3 zones. And his game has come on in spades this last while. And that's great to see. So all 3 guys on the second line, thumbs up.
I have to give you credit. We have 2 good things each, but your first good thing was 3 good things.
3 good things. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to have 4. All right. At the start of the year.
Second good thing. Yeah, one night I did a line for the first good thing and another line for the second good thing. I like to spread credit around on a good night.
At the start of the year, Nugent-Hopkins talked. I remember an interview where they asked him about the hopes for the year. And he talked about how he hoped to find a line mate that he had chemistry with. I distinctly remember that, and I kind of felt bad for the guy because he hasn't had that in a long time. I guess arguably with Lucic and Eberle in 2016-17, with McDavid, he played well for a stretch, but I guess he's looking for that, just a set line for a year where he can just go to town with some other players. And who would have guessed it would have been Draisaitl would have been the player?
And Yamamoto. It's the 3 of them.
And Yamamoto. It is. He's found 2 guys. And does it ever change the face of the Edmonton Oilers to have 2 attacking lines that can get the job done? Because McDavid can drag his own line single-handedly forward. Okay, my good thing, Bruce, is I'll start with Mikko Koskinen. I like him in net. I still favor him over Mike Smith. I just think he's a better goalie, slightly better goalie. You just get the feeling. I think he spooks the other team a little bit. Just with his size, he's hard to beat. The glove hand hasn't been an issue this year. In his games, he's got a .911 save percentage, and Smith has a .901. Koskinen is 15-11, and Smith is 12-13. And
it's an important turnaround game for him all the same.
Yeah, I think
struggled his last couple of starts.
The coach
Excuse me,
leans.
cat's calling.
Yeah, go ahead. Coach leans towards Mike Smith. It seems to me keeps going back to him every opportunity for Mike Smith, and I like Mike Smith just fine. Mike Smith is a good goalie, but in the end, I'm glad that you know Koskinen is getting every second game on average, and it's fantastic to see. I mean, at 4.5 million, the Oilers are getting good value out of that player for this year at least. So, good contract to date.
Well,
And no reason it can't be the next 2 years either. Like he looks like a good goalie.
when he's on his game, he looks like an excellent goalie.
Yeah.
And he's had a couple struggles lately. He lost 2 games to Calgary since Christmas, and he won that one game against Rangers. Remember where it was 6-0, and they hung where he got hurt, and so
Yeah.
I think that compromised his play down the stretch of that game. And then so he only played 1 game in January before tonight, because the Oilers have barely played. I mean, the Oilers only played 9 games all month.
And they went with Smith.
10 games all month, and they 9, I guess, and they went with Smith in 7 out of 8. And only tonight with the back-to-back, you knew they had to use Koskinen in one of them, and he came through and he did his part. It's some real solid work.
Seals off the bottom of the net so well, like just the low shots. And there was one shot on the power play late in the game. I remember Peter Angelo scoring in other games on the power play against the Oilers. This time, real hard rocket shot from Peter Angelo, and he sucked it right in without a rebound. That was such a big save. So,
and it was a shot through a lot of traffic, that one, right?
Yeah, the scoring chances were 11-10. He had 10 grade A chances that he had to stop. He stopped all but 2 of them, so that's a very good night for Mikko Koskinen. What's your second good thing?
Well, I'm going to single out a particular defenseman, Adam Larsson. And I know they were raving about him on the broadcast, but with good reason. And Larsson really brought it with the defensive game tonight. And a critic might say that he spent too much time behind his own blue line. But he and Oscar Klefbom were consistently facing the best of the St. Louis Blues. It was quite an interesting job that Dave Tippett did tonight with his D-men. And if you look at the shot shares in this game, you say, well, when Larsson was on the ice, the Oilers got outshot 13-7, and when the other pairs were on the ice, they were doing the outshooting. And when Caleb Jones was on the ice, the Oilers had 15 shots to 3 against. So it looks like that's their best pair. Well, guess what? The matchups. This is the top minutes of play tonight. Jones and Benning. Jones looked really good on his left side, on his natural side, I thought tonight, by the way. But Jones, the most guys they played against was 6 minutes against Blaze, Barbashev, and Dillarose, which is not exactly St. Louis's top players. For Nurse and Bear, they played 9 minutes against Schenn, Schwartz, and Steen. For Klefbom and Larsson, 13 minutes against Perron, O'Reilly, and Sanford. And those guys were just bringing it. Man, Perron's a tough guy to handle. And Ryan O'Reilly, what a fantastic player that guy is. Like every part of the ice, he's a tremendous player. Very dangerous, very crafty, makes very good decisions in an instant. And it was them bringing the pressure. And it was Larsson and Klefbom who were tasked with the responsibility of dealing with it, and they had to deal with a lot of it behind their own blue line and behind their own goal line. But Larsson dealt with some of it with dispatch. He had that one fantastic shift where he hammered 2 different guys with clean body checks and put them both down. And in between times, made a very good defensive play to block a shot pass that looked like it was headed for a danger zone, and he in fact blocked 6 shots in this game. Stepped up in a big way. This was the good Adam Larsson that we don't see this guy every night, but we sure did see him tonight. So hats off to him for delivering a big performance against a real tough set of rivals.
He almost went full Kachuk on that one hit. The guy came around the net and he came down and leveled him. Now the guy saw him more than Cassian saw Kachuk, but it
Well,
was
that was a fair. That
that
was
was a
one on
real
one though. It
hard
wasn't
hit.
1-on-2.
Well, I think
Wasn't
the
where
guy
he
was
was the
engaged.
second guy where he comes
I think it
rolling
was
in.
Bruce.
He
I think it
he just
was.
he
That was a
just
similarity.
stood him up. He just stood him up. The guy tried to come through his area, and Larson, like, there was no. He didn't bring anything up. He didn't go for the head. He just got the whole body and just hammered him. That was
Uh,
Tyler Bozak. And
yeah.
then a few seconds later, he got that. Greasy Sammy Blaze, and I didn't mind that
Oh,
one at all.
Sammy Blaze is he's a tough player, eh? You love him to have him on the Oilers. He's a tough guy. Okay, my second good thing, Bruce, is the defensive depth on the Oilers. So they lose Chris Russell. Chris
Mhm.
Russell is a pretty good defensive hockey player. This year, they don't miss a beat. They got Benning back. Caleb Jones steps in. Ethan Bear continues to play strong hockey in a top four role on the right side. I mean, he's just such a crucial player to the Oilers. Caleb Jones, though, just looking better and better every game. I agree. Like the when you're looking at statistics for defensemen, it can be deceiving if you look at on ice numbers for the bottom pairing defensemen because I think they have it way easier than the top
Yes.
four in terms of. I don't think the forwards actually necessarily have it all that different than other forwards. But I think those bottom two defensemen, they could be really misleading. Their on ice numbers
Well, their
because they
matchups are.
their matchup is they're playing against guys who have a hard time scoring, hard time getting scoring chances, and nonetheless, so that all that's a man. Caleb Jones is a great player with the puck. He is so savvy with the puck, and I love the way he plays hockey. I'm a huge fan of this player. I think he's as good a player as Ethan Bear. When he gets his confidence, when he gets his legs under him at the NHL this season, gets the full confidence of the coach, he's a really strong player. I'd hate to see the Oilers trade him. I understand they've got a logjam at left defense, and who knows what's going to happen. But the fact that he can also switch over to the right side, um, we're seeing the Oilers without Chris Russell here and what it might look like, and
Yeah.
didn't look that bad. And Matt Benning is just a solid. He's a solid hockey player. He's a solid bottom pairing defenseman. Nothing wrong with his
Yeah.
game. Very sound, defensively sound, fundamentally sound. Doesn't make many mistakes.
Well, we've seen. I mean, even just the last three games, we've seen Russell with Jones, Russell with Benning, and now Jones with Benning, and just by the nature of the injuries, that Benning came back in the same game he came back. Russell got hurt. I really like Jones on the left side tonight. I thought he was more. He made more
Yeah.
plays to get open space in his own zone. He had a couple more options to go wide to his strong side and make a pass, and he looked sound. And both that pair, they were both on the ice for all three goals that the Draisaitl line was on. The
Sweet.
same five players were on for all three of the main goals in this game. Against the goalie, and they were like the puck was definitely going north on their watch, and like you say, they were playing against weaker players for the most part, but they really got the job done. And Jones, I think that's the best game I've seen him play in the NHL, to tell the truth.
Oh, he had some good ones last year when he came up. He seemed to have a real jolt of confidence when he first came. But I best game this year.
Yeah,
Best
they
game
even
under
taped
Tippett.
up a puck for him. That was kind of weird. He scored his second career goal. I'm saying to my wife, why is everybody collecting pucks and stuff? Like, I'm sure he scored last year, and I looked it
Maybe
up.
they
Sure enough,
forgot.
he had a goal, and it seemed like everybody on the bench forgot. Probably Jones remembered, and it must have been kind of a. They'll be laughing about that one tomorrow. I wonder what
Well,
they'll do with that puck.
this is the self-esteem era, Bruce. So you get this. You just don't tape
First of
up
the
that
year, you
first
get a
puck.
puck. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone gets a taped up puck every game. All right. What's your bad thing?
We can thumb wrestle over this one, but since you let me go first, I'm going to take Jujhar
Well,
Khaira.
we agreed, Bruce. This is
The shocker.
we're picking the same bad thing.
Oh,
This is
okay.
a
Well,
rare game.
let's pile on then.
We're piling on and picking the same
By my
bad thing
by my count, we
because there's
had
lots to
him
say.
tabbed for four grade A scoring chances against, including both goals that were in part due to errors by Kara. The one that stuck in my craw, especially, was the game tying goal, where just seconds after he'd been burned for one play that hit the post, the puck came to him in the slot, and he had full possession of the puck and just needed to make a competent play to get it to the boards, get it over the blue line, dump it out, make it pass, like some of the good options. And he just fumbled it into his skate and he lost possession and bang, bang, it's in the net. You got to be able to bear down and make a play under pressure in this league, or you can't stay in the league. And I'm starting to run out of patience. Is not quite the right word, but I'm starting to run low on expectations that he's going to get through this and turn himself into a player, because this has been bad. There's been a lot of bad hockey from this guy. First 2 months of the year, then he got it going for a while, and we thought, well, it's a good thing we didn't get rid of him. Now we're seeing the real guy, and it lasted for about 3 weeks, and then right back into the tank.
How many nights have we had like this with Khaira? It's probably about 4 or 5, right? Where at the end of the game, we're just left kind of shaking our hands and heads and wondering if he's going to be able to stay in the NHL. There's an NHL player there. I'll be surprised if it's in Edmonton at this point. He's wearing out his welcome. He's worn out his welcome with many, many fans. And maybe he's feeling that. Maybe those tough little plays come where he seizes up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he's got good size, so you hate to lose him. You hate to lose a big tough guy like that. But I think the Oilers would be okay without him, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him move to the deadline for another player.
He was good on the penalty kill tonight. I'll give him that.
He is good.
He's been good on the penalty kill most of the year.
Yeah.
But at even strength, he's just too many bad things happening, and the Oilers are getting outscored when he's on the ice. -2 tonight. I mean, your depth lines, our job is to keep things quiet, and it just wasn't happening when he was out there. I just did not see him in a real good light.
Well, we track major mistakes on goals against at the Cult of Hockey in our video review, and Khaira for the wingers, for the full-time wingers, is the worst player. He's made 16 mistakes on goals against this year. The next worst is Archibald with 11. He had a really bad run at the start of the year. Since has been good. James Neal 10, Cassian 8, Gagner 9.
But that's 16 and not that much ice time compared to some of these other guys.
Yeah, like Neal, Cassian's over basis. 700 minutes, and Khaira is at 480 minutes. So 490 minutes. Yeah, he's at a rating. Yeah, he's just way below everybody else. It's not close to good enough. So yeah, I just think see what happens. Like, there's been times when I've really liked this player. You've liked this player. He's had good games. He's had good stretches.
I'm still rooting for him. I just don't see it happening, and I'm seeing costly mistakes on a repetitive basis, and same type of mistakes, especially turnovers inside his own blue line.
I wonder if he'll be in the lineup tomorrow against Calgary, or if they go with Tyler Benson. I wouldn't be, they might want Khaira because if they got Buddy Hamilton there, or whatever that guy's name is. You need someone to go up against Buddy and Lucic. Maybe they'll have Khaira, and maybe they'll get another chance because it's against Calgary. Wouldn't mind seeing Tyler Benson, though.
He was still playing in the third period. I mean,
I thought he might be benched.
I'll say that Tippett kept rolling the lines. I thought Dave Tippett himself actually had a pretty good game tonight.
Me too.
Well, we don't grade coaches, but I liked his matchups, and I liked the way he worked everybody in there, and the penalty kill came through with those 3 big kills, including the one in 3 minutes left in the third period. Alex Jason, who I thought had a very good game up until then, but boy, that's a tough penalty to take with 3 minutes to play.
That was a penalty too. The one thing I liked Tippett's game too. I didn't necessarily like the Khaira on the checking line with Sheahan. Who else was on that line?
Patrick Russell.
Yeah. I, the too
Because
big slow guy
Archibald went
thing.
up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the too big slow guy thing doesn't work for me. You know, one of the things I've been thinking is Gagne has had some extra pep in his step. I'd love to see him with McDavid and Cassian for a game, and put Archibald then back with Sheahan and whoever
Okay.
Russell on the checking line. But I think Gagne, like he's good to go in these big games. I'm liking him
He
in
was
the
good
big
tonight.
games. He's good tonight. He was really good against Calgary. I'd
Brought
like
the
to see
energy.
him. Yeah, I think he could make some plays with Connor McDavid and Cassian. He's got the confidence to try, and he's a pretty smart hockey player at this point. So, Bruce, what is your? So my bad thing was also Cassian. What was your number?
That's a Kara. Yeah.
Or yeah, excuse me, Kara.
I'm going to go with the number 10. And it's 10 games ago, December 31st to January 31st, at the slow crawl that the schedule's turned into. But it was 10 games ago that Dave Tippett finally split up the deadly duo of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and definitively put him on two lines. And they brought up Kailer Yamamoto at the same time. And at that point, the season, they were at the 41 game point of the season. And since then, in those 10 games, since Leon has been away from Connor, Leon has scored at least 1 point in all 10 of those games. All 10 of those games. And in his last 8 games, this is Leon's points in the last 8 games: 2, 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 2, 2. Like, he's not just getting a point here and there, he's getting multiple points almost every game. And he's doing it with, as said right up top, with lots of help from the wingers. Tonight, Yamamoto got 1 point and Nuge got two, and the defense chipped in. But Leon on his own line with the right wingers is getting the job done. And a big part of that, of course, is McDavid is soaking up the toughest matchups. But
Yeah.
when you can then throw your second line over the boards and they're playing against the other team's second toughs, well, if your second line has, three top six caliber players on it, and not Toby Reeder and Alex Chason, then you can make good things happen. And tonight, that was the difference in the game. The Oilers have two game breakers, and many nights it's going to be the first line that's going to break the game, but some nights it's going to be the second. And, Leon Draisaitl did break this game with a beautiful goal to put Edmonton ahead 3-2. His 8th game-winning goal of the season, now tied for the NHL lead. And he's a guy that scores big goals at big times. This wasn't the 4th goal in what became a 7-3 win. This was the one that turned the tide back in Edmonton's favor after St. Louis had forged their way back into a tie. And when you've got, so anyway, 10 games, 7 wins, all in regulation, just one regulation loss, that one to Calgary. And the 2 other losses were the only 2 overtime games they played. They happened to lose both of them. Normally you'd expect to win one of those games, but 7-1-2. And over those 10 games, they've scored 44 goals.
Yeah, there's kind of 2 camps of Oiler fans, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
There's the ones who want to see McDavid and Draisaitl together, and I'm pretty sure Kurt Levins is in that camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the camp that want to see them split apart, and I'm definitely in that camp. I have been from the start. And I've liked McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, who doesn't like them together when they're scoring? But I've always liked this team. I think this is a better team when they're split up. It just gives more wingers more of a chance to play with exceptional hockey players. And it causes these matchup troubles for the other teams. It also has them both playing center and not shifting back and forth, not confused about their defensive assignment. Listen, these 2 guys were atrocious at defense in December. They were 2 of the worst defensive players in the NHL that month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's partly because they're shifting around. No one knows who's supposed to play center. They're making these small little mistakes, making defensive breakdowns because of it, goals against. And now they're playing center, and they know who's supposed to play center, the guy who takes the face-offs. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's the right way to go. Maybe wouldn't be surprised to see Tippett go back to them together again. But on the other hand, with the way this line's playing, pretty hard to move against away from it.
The way, I mean, it's definitively working, this big change that he made at mid-season. And he's got uh, he would need a lot of convincing. Like what he is doing, and I like this as well, is this idea that after the Oilers kill the penalty and the other team's best players have all had a shift on the power play to immediately counter with Connor and Leon together for one shift, but only right after a penalty kill, and try and take advantage of a matchup that way. And also to get them back in the game, because they generally, his A plan is to not use those guys on the penalty kill and then have them fresh and raring to go as soon as the penalty's over. And we haven't seen it bear a lot of fruit in terms of goals yet, right after penalties. But we've seen Tippett go into that combination, so he picks his spots on when to use them. But I thought this was hugely significant the other night. We didn't talk about this, but
Overtime.
At the overtime, when for the first time in forever, instead of going out with Connor and Leon off the bat, they went with Draisaitl and Yamamoto, and then came back with McDavid and Nugent Hopkins together. Now that they got four guys that can skate and make plays and not dump it into the other team, that they can use in overtime.
Yeah.
Like at one point this season, we were talking about using one forward and two defensemen because they only had three forwards that they could rely on in the overtime situation. Well, Yamamoto, he played 3 shifts in that overtime, and he was fantastic in overtime.
Yeah.
Both ends of the ice. He made about 3 great defensive plays in that overtime. And it was a good thing because he was out there with Draisaitl, and that was where Draisaitl and McDavid together were starting to get exposed when the other guys had the puck. And Yamamoto, he got that job done, and then there was. But I wondered at what point Tippett would go away from that, and it's clearly now is the time that he's decided. Nope, these guys are each going to drive their own unit. They get their power play time together, and we'll spot them after a penalty kill, and otherwise each guy is in charge of his own line. And again, it reminds me a little bit of the chemistry between Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier.
Yeah.
Back in the year, and the second line can do its own damage, and it'll win you the odd game. And on the nights when they're both going, well, God help the other team,
Yeah. I like Nuge on the wing too, Bruce. I like Nuge on the wing. Honestly, I don't think Nuge.
But I agree.
I don't think Nuge, honestly, is a strong defensive center. He's been in the league a long time, and I just don't see it. I like him as a winger defensively. I think he's a smart defender, but I think he can get overpowered in the slot. I think he puck watches a little too much in the slot. And this is 7-8 years into his career. I'd see, honestly, I just think they can do better than him. Defensively at center, he's a fantastic hockey player, though. He's a strong defensive player, too.
At wing.
Yeah, at wing. Mm-hmm. So I like him there. So my number, Bruce, is -11 and +25. So if you go by official NHL plus minus, Leon Draisaitl is -11. He's the 4th worst player on the Oilers. He was +3 tonight, but he's -11 overall. But at the Cult of Hockey, we actually look at each goal and scoring chance, but all the goals, try to figure out, well, who has actually made a major contribution to that goal and who made a major mistake on the goal against.
Right.
If you go by that, by what we're seeing and counting up, like kind of what I call individual goals plus minus or real plus minus, Draisaitl's +25.
Is it even strength?
Even strength.
Wow.
+25. The best number on the Oilers. So he's not a -11 player at even strength. He's contributed to 43 even strength goals, made a major contribution to 43 even strength goals in 51 games, and he's made mistakes on 18 against, major mistakes on 18, which is a high number. McDavid's made 26, and he's 41. McDavid is +15 by that same metric.
That's a huge difference between the two.
Yeah, so Leon's actually been, if you just look at goals, and I don't think this is a perfect metric to look at, lens filter to look. No, there isn't. I think it's kind of interesting, especially as the season goes on and you get a larger sample size. Goals plus minus starts to become a more significant statistic. But the talk, we went a month talking about every minus that Leon Draisaitl got. Well, the problem was he was making major mistakes on all those goals against. He was really earning those. But overall this year, he's been a fantastic two-way hockey player. And I know that we have a little running inside joke that I've picked him as the bad thing many, many nights. But Leon Draisaitl is a fantastic two-way hockey player in the NHL. He's absolutely fantastic. He's the modern-day Phil Esposito, and I love watching him play.
Well, he's hanging in there, After coming into tonight's game, they were dead heat for the scoring lead. The Oilers had played 50. Each of McDavid and Draisaitl had 50 assists, one per game. Each of them had 27 goals. And tonight, now with his 2 goals and McDavid held off the score sheet, Leon's got his nose back in front again. And all year it seemed like, well, he had the hot start, but inevitably McDavid's going to catch him and he's going to pass him and he's going to pull away. Not happening. And Leon is just staying right there with him. And I mean, as mentioned, he's scored 16 points in his last 8 games. He's not going away. He's pumping them in.
Leon's at 1.55 points per game. McDavid at 1.51. That's
stratospheric.
Yeah, we're looking at how many points? 130?
125 at least for 1.55. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, Bruce, I'm going to expire if I don't get off this podcast soon. I think the people are tired of hearing me coughing and sniffling, so.
Okay.
Probably time to hit the hay.
You're feeling a little better tomorrow night. We'll have another Battle of Alberta to discuss, and we'll either be spitting fire or throwing bouquets, and I sure hope it's the latter because I'm sick and tired of losing to Calgary.
I think the Oilers are going to win.
It's a tall order. Like they're
if they get good
turn it around after the heavy game. Like I joked on Twitter that when it comes to heavy hockey, the St. Louis Blues are Andre the Giant. That they. But if they can find and hopefully they will. Like they'll be truly motivated tomorrow, and hopefully they can just keep it going. And it'd be nice just to see them take it to them. Man, I'd love to see that. But they need to get a result out of that game as well.
Yeah. Don't they have Refrigerator Perry on defense in St. Louis? All right.
Bruce David back is still smearing guys into the boards.
Leaving little stains, as you put it. That was kind of a horrific image, Bruce. All right. Thanks for talking.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.